You know, sometimes we jokingly refer to someone who's going to be interrogated by the police as being taken into a dark room and having the bare light bulb over their head and beaten with a rubber hose until they confess what it is the police want them to confess. Well, that's not parallel at all to what Jesus went through when he was standing before the high priest in John chapter 18. But the interrogation was very intense. The interrogation was very awful. And as the high priest in John 18 began to ask Jesus about who you are and what are you doing and where did you come from, Jesus makes the response, I've told everything openly and those things in secret. The Bible tells us in John 18, verse 22, that one of the officers that stood by the high priest struck Jesus with the palm of his hand. And he said, "Why do you answer the high priest like that?" Jesus responded to this man who had just hit him, and he said, "If I have spoken evil, then bear witness of the evil. Tell me what it is. But if I have spoken well, then why did you strike me?" We've heard a lot in the last few years about police brutality. And we learn when we read this particular incident, it's nothing new. Jesus experienced this, the abuse by an officer, as an innocent man 2,000 years ago. And interestingly enough, this officer is in the high priest's court. He's a Jew. He's not one of the pagans. He's not one of the Romans. He's a Jew. He's his fellow citizen. And yet he abuses him this way. I think there are many good policemen. I think most of them who serve are doing that conscientiously and with their whole heart and doing it for the best intentions of the protection of society. But yes, certainly there are some who are unworthy of wearing that badge. And it's difficult when we see innocent people who suffer because of that. And yet we have to see that in Jesus Christ, the most innocent man who has ever walked on the face of the earth, he experienced the same thing. Now, there are some who would say the solution to that is to get rid of the police. Well, that's not the solution either. Would you like to see the world without any police protection at all? And I want to offer you a little ray of hope as we think about this particular situation and the application that we're trying to make a little later on. Just a few hours later, Jesus will be hanging on the cross. And in Mark 15, verse 39, the Bible tells us that a centurion, he was a Roman. He was from pagan background. This man, rather than being brutal, he had overseen the execution, of course, but this man, as Jesus was dying, and when he took his last breath, this man said, "Truly, this was the Son of God." There indeed is always great hope.